Imagine living in a place where the sun literally never shines. That's the bleak reality of Jackson Star. It's a brutal mining colony completely controlled by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Disease runs rampant, the work is backbreaking, and everyone is trapped under an inescapable corporate thumb. We follow Rain, a young woman who just wants to see a real sun, alongside her synthetic brother Andy. Andy's a salvaged android, patched up by Rain's late father with one incredibly simple overriding prime directive: to do what's best for Rain.
You hear it echoing over the colony's speakers. They sell us hope to keep us slaves. The company pays us with food and shelter and takes our lives in exchange. It's a heavy, grim reminder of their sunless existence. And it's exactly this crushing, hopeless reality that pushes Rain and her friends to risk absolutely everything. They are desperate for a chance at freedom in the Avaga system. It's an independent, fully terraformed world where you can actually see daylight, but getting there requires travel papers that the company has no intention of ever granting.
Rain actually thinks she's finally earned her freedom, having met her required work hours. But the corporate officer bluntly hits her with the bad news. Due to a worker shortage, the quotas have been arbitrarily jacked up to an impossible 24,000 hours. She's trapped in those deadly mines for another 5 to 6 years. This completely impossible dilemma fully justifies the crew's incredibly desperate decision. A decommissioned Weyland-Yutani space station is drifted into their orbit, and it holds the cryopods they desperately need to make the 9-year journey to Avaga. To get in, they need Andy, because his Weyland-Yutani programming is the only way to communicate with the station's computer, Mother.
The second they take their hauler up to the station, they're up against a massive ticking clock. The station is on a decaying orbit and will crash into the planetary rings in exactly 36 hours. The crew docks with the massive Renaissance station and pushes inside. Right away, they encounter terrifying environmental hazards, like automated zero-gravity purges that drop their stomachs and threaten to crush them. But the real disaster strikes in the cryo depot. When they attempt to extract the highly regulated cryofuel needed for their pods, the freezing extraction process goes totally wrong. It triggers an immediate emergency lockdown, trapping half the crew inside a sweltering, thawing lab.
That rising heat in the locked room initiates a cryogenic thaw, which releases a swarm of trapped, spider-like facehuggers. The crew realizes with pure terror that they are completely trapped in the water with these things. The creatures start leaping from the water, violently attacking the crew, and one manages to successfully breach a helmet and latch itself directly onto Navarro's face, choking her and rendering her unconscious. In a split second, this goes from a simple heist into a desperate, all-out fight for survival.
Rain and the others are separated by a locked door that Andy just doesn't have the security clearance to open. But Rain spots a module from a damaged, half-destroyed synthetic lying in the hallway. In a crucial narrative pivot, she decides to install this found module directly into Andy to upgrade his security clearance so he can bypass the doors. While it successfully reboots him and heals his motor functions, we quickly learn that this module instantly alters his core programming, his prime directive.
The consequence of that upgrade is absolutely devastating. Andy's old directive, written by Rain's father, was beautifully simple: do what's best for Rain. But the new module completely overrides this. His new directive is cold, calculating, and ruthless: do what's best for the company. This one upgrade instantly shifts Andy from Rain's loyal protector to a corporate pawn, acting entirely on behalf of the station's damaged synthetic science officer, Rook.
Rook might be half destroyed, but he's still fully loyal to Weyland-Yutani, and he delivers a massive revelation about what this station was actually doing. The Renaissance was researching the perfect organism, the xenomorph. From its DNA, they extracted a non-Newtonian fluid, a compound called ZO1, or Prometheus fire. Rook casually explains that mankind is simply too fragile for space colonization, so this miracle pathogen was designed to rewrite human DNA and upgrade humanity for space survival. He also drops a terrifying biological fact: these xenomorphs have highly corrosive sulfuric and hydrofluoric acid for blood.
Back with the crew, the facehugger falls off Navarro, and Andy calculates her odds of survival are incredibly low because the parasitoid has already implanted a seed. Driven by sheer panic and a deep hatred for synthetics, Bjorn tries to flee with Navarro on their hauler, the Corbelan, leaving Rain and the others behind. But mid-flight, the horrifying xenomorph chestburster violently emerges from Navarro. In the ensuing chaos, the ship crashes directly into the station's hangar bay, triggering a massive explosion. That explosion physically pushes the massive station's axis off by a few degrees, which drastically accelerates their timeline. The crew now has less than 40 minutes before the entire station plunges into the planetary rings, vastly reducing their window for escape.
To reach their crashed hauler, the survivors have to cross to the Romulus module of the station. The problem? The path is completely infested with facehuggers. Andy reveals that these parasitoids are blind. They track prey primarily by heat signature. This sets up an incredibly intense, sensory-driven stealth sequence. They raised a hallway's temperature to perfectly match their body heat, effectively making themselves invisible. But there's a massive catch. Any spike in body heat from stress, fear, or panic, even just breaking a sweat, will instantly expose them to the heat-seeking creatures.
They barely make it through the hallway, but the nightmare is far from over. Pregnant Kay is trapped behind a door as a fully grown xenomorph approaches. Tyler begs Andy to open the door, but it takes 2 seconds to open and 2 to close, plenty of time for the creature to breach their safe room. Andy just looks at them and states coldly, "I'm afraid I have a new directive: to do what's best for the company." He flat out refuses to open the door, calculating that saving her risks the company's ultimate goal. Kay is brutally attacked and dragged away, and in a subsequent desperate attempt to save her, Tyler is violently killed by the xenomorph.
Rain is completely backed into a corner now. She arms herself with an F-44AA pulse rifle, a heavy-duty colonial marine weapon with an electronic pulse action and an aiming assist that locks onto targets. But Andy delivers a chilling warning. They are on the bottom floor of the station, with the cold vacuum of space directly beneath their feet. If Rain shoots those creatures, she will spill their highly corrosive acid blood. It will instantly melt right through the floor, causing a fatal, explosive decompression. Faced with a swarm of xenomorphs in the elevator shaft and unable to shoot the floor, Rain comes up with an incredibly desperate, genius zero-gravity tactic. She manually turns off the gravity generators. As she floats weightless, she unleashes the pulse rifle, blasting the xenomorphs. Because there's no gravity, the lethal acid blood doesn't hit the floor. Instead, it suspends in midair as these floating, sizzling orbs. Rain and Andy must then physically pull themselves safely through this deadly floating minefield of acid. During the chaotic escape, Andy gets severely damaged and immobilized. Science Officer Rook coldly tells Rain to just abandon the synthetic, but she completely refuses. She fights her way back to him, dodges the xenomorphs, and unplugs that corporate module straight from the back of his neck. Instantly, Andy reboots. The cold corporate logic is wiped away, and his original fundamental directive is restored: to do what's best for Rain. It's a powerful emotional reunion right before they barely make it back to their crashed hauler, where they find Kay, heavily bleeding but miraculously alive. Rain secures Kay in the ship and sets it to autopilot to escape the exploding station. However, Kay is losing a massive amount of blood and realizes she won't survive the cryosleep. Remembering Rook's words about the Z01 compound being a miracle upgrade that heals and accelerates metabolism, a desperate, terrified Kay secretly injects herself with the Prometheus fire. It's a total wildcard bid to heal herself and save her unborn child. The terrifying side effects of Weyland-Yutani's so-called miracle drug manifests almost immediately. The pathogen aggressively rewrites her DNA. Inside the cryobay of the escaping ship, Kay goes into violent, agonizing labor. She gives birth to an absolute abomination, a rapidly growing mutated human xenomorph hybrid. It's a towering, pale nightmare that immediately begins a violent assault, ruthlessly attacking Kay, severely damaging Andy, and stalking Rain through the narrow corridors of the hauler. Rain is pushed to the absolute brink in a breathless final battle. The ship's alarms are blaring, and the creature is hunting her. She manages to secure herself inside a heavy spacesuit. With the hybrid literally bearing down on her, she triggers the ship's manual cargo release. She has to fight against the creature's immense strength just to pull the 4 manual levers, unlocking the bay doors. The floor gives way, and the sudden, violent decompression flushes the horrific hybrid right out into the cold, empty vacuum of space. Finally alone, Rain records her last cryolog. She sets a course for the Avaga system, promising to fix the broken Andy, not knowing if they will ever actually reach it. She climbs into her pod, finally safe from the immediate horrors of the Renaissance. But as she drifts off to sleep, we are left with a chilling, provocative question. By utilizing the company's stolen hauler and cryopods, has Rain truly escaped the infinite grasp of Weyland-Yutani, or is she just delaying the inevitable reckoning, dreaming of a son she may never actually see?